Good day, students. On this clip, we're going to be going over some problems that'll get you ready for the upcoming test. So I just want to start by commending you for taking the time to go over this presentation. Hopefully helps you get the grade you deserve, okay? All right, let's take a look at question number 1. It says there are two numbers with the following properties. The second number is 8 more than the first number. And number 2, the product of the two numbers is 8 more than their sum. Which of the following represents possible values of these two numbers? So just to make it easier, let's give the two numbers a variable. So let the first be x, and the second be y. Okay. All right. So let's make a chart. We're going to be testing our candidates, which are the alternatives we have, to see which one works. Okay. So we're going to make ourselves a chart. So we're going to put the first condition on the left side and the second condition on the right side. So condition number 1 is that the second number is 8 more than the first. So if I add 8 to the first one, I'll get the second one, right? Since the second is 8 more than the first. So y is basically x plus 8. Okay? And then the second condition is that the product of the two is 8 more than your sum. So if I take the sum of the two numbers, x plus y, and add 8, that's going to give me the product. Okay? So the product of the two is the sum plus 8. Okay? All right, so we're going to test the numbers right now. So all right, so let's start out by trying alternative A, -8 and 0. So if x is -8, and that's the first one, and y is 0. Let's write it as a coordinate so that it's easy for us to understand. So we're going to be trying -8, 0. Okay, so this is x and this is y. So the question is, let's do the first test. Is 0 equal -8 plus 8? Is that true? Well, let's work it out. Is 0 equal -8 plus 8 is 0? It checks out with the first one. The second one is x plus y plus 8 equals x times y. So x is -8, y is 0, plus 8, is it equal to x, which is -8, times y, which is 0? Is it? If I work this out, -8 plus 0 is -8 plus 8 is 0. -8 times 0 is 0. So this is true and this is true. So option A, both of them check out. So the answer is option A. Okay? All right, so there you have it. All right, let's move on to question number 2. It says red maple trees can reach heights of up to 80 feet. What is the height of the maple tree shown below? Round your answer to the nearest tenth if necessary. All right, so this is a right angle trig problem because we have an angle on two sides. So let's identify the reference angle. This is the reference angle. If that's a reference angle, that means the side opposite the reference angle, which is the side we're looking for, is the opposite. Okay, so this side right here is the opposite. The side opposite the 90-degree angle is the hypotenuse along the side of the triangle, which is h. And the other side is the adjacent. In this problem, we don't know the adjacent, we don't need it, so we scratch it. We're focusing on O and H. So in SOHCAHTOA, the one that has O and H is sine, okay? So basically sine of the angle 34 equals opposite, which is h, over hypotenuse, which is 85. All right? So let's get h by itself. To get h by itself, I'm going to multiply both sides by 85. And I'm going to get h equals 85 sine 34. Okay? So we're going to plug that into our calculators and see what the correct answer is. So if we plug in our calculator, we get 47.53. So h is approximately 47.5. Okay, so our answer is option C. All right, let's move on to the next one. Problem 3. It says determine which pair of functions are inverses. So let's take a look at option number 1. F of x is 11x plus 2 over 6. So the question is, if I take the inverse of this, do I get g? That's the question. So to find the inverse, we already says y equals 11x plus 2. So we did the switch. After we switch, I'm sorry, we rewrote the f of x as y, so we rewrite. Now we're going to switch the x's and the y's. X equals 11y plus 2 over 6. Now we're going to solve for y. Okay? All right, to solve for y, we multiply both sides by 6. And that gives us 6x equals, this divide out, equals 11y plus 2. And then to get y by itself, we subtract 2 from both sides. Let's switch it around. We have 11y equals 6x minus 2. And then we divide both sides by 11. Divide by 11. Divide by 11. And then we have y equals 6x minus 2 over 11. So is this equal to g? Absolutely not. Okay? So now let's test number 2. The question is, if I take the inverse of this function f of x equals x minus 6, do I get g, x plus 6? Okay? So rewrite it. We're going to write y equals x minus 6. We're going to switch. X equals y minus 6. And then to solve for y, we just add 6 to both sides. Add 6, add 6. And then we're going to have y equals x plus 6. Is that g? Absolutely. So option 2, so they're inverses. Okay, so these two functions are inverses of each other. So the answer is option C. Okay, so even though you think about it, this subtract 6, this add 6. So the opposite of subtracting 6 is adding 6. So without even doing any math, you can tell that these two are inverses just by looking at what they do. Okay, all right, let's move on to question 4. It says, which is an equation for the inverse of y equals 2x plus 4? So we have y equals 2x plus 4. Now to find the inverse, it's already written in a nice form, y and x. We're going to switch. X equals 2y plus 4. And then we're going to solve for the new y. Okay, so to do that, we subtract 4 from both sides. And then we have 2y equals x minus 4. And then to get y by itself, we divide both sides by 2. So divide this by 2, divide this by 2. And then we'll have y equals x minus 4 over 2. So the final answer is B. All right, let's move on to question number 5. We're to add these two rational expressions. So 2 over x minus 4, x plus 4 minus 8 over x plus 2. Now, no, remember in fractions, whenever you're adding fractions, the denominators must be the same, okay? So what's the denominator? We need to find the LCD in order to make the denominators identical. So in this problem, the LCD of x plus 4 and x plus 2, since they're both co-prime and different, that means the LCD is simply going to be the product of both of them. X plus 4 times x plus 2 is the LCD. Alright, so we need to make both denominators this quantity, the product of these two quantities. So this needs an x plus 2, so we're going to times the top and bottom by x plus 2, top and bottom. And this needs an x plus 4, so we times the top and bottom by x plus 4. Okay? Alright, now on the upper left, we'll distribute this 2 to both quantities. So we're going to have 2x plus 4. And on this side, we're going to distribute negative 8 to this and that. So that gives me negative 8x. Notice what happens to this plus. Minus 8 times positive 4 is negative 32. Okay, so we've got to be really careful with that. This is where most people make mistakes. They make this a plus. They forget to multiply this with that. Alright, so having done that, it's going to be over x plus 2 times x plus 4. Okay? Alright, let's simplify the top. If I combine 2x minus 8x, I'll have negative 6x. So combine this and this. And then if I combine 4 and negative 32, I'll get negative 28. You subtract and keep the sign of the bigger one, okay? So that over x is 2 times x is 4. So the answer is C. All right, let's move on to question 6. It says write the equation in standard form and state whether the graph of the equation is a parabola, circle, ellipse, or hyperbola. So this is a problem where you don't actually have to do anything. You can just look at it and tell. If you look at it, you have two squares and a plus. If you have two squares and a plus, it's automatically either going to be an ellipse or a circle, right? Now, if the coefficients are the same, coefficients are equal, it's a circle, or if the denominators are equal, it's also going to be a circle. But if the coefficients of the squares are dissimilar, or the denominators are dissimilar, that's going to mean it's going to be eccentric in one direction, okay? So if you look at this, you notice that you have two squares and a plus. So let's dump parabola because that has a 1 square and hyperbola because that has a minus. Since the coefficients are different, that automatically makes it an ellipse. So the answer is option D. Scrap that. Okay? Alright, let's move on to question 7. We have to find the distance between A and B. So all we just do here is we make a right triangle. Like this. Let's try that again. So make a right triangle here. And then we're going to attempt to find this length right here, okay? That is going to be our C. This is a right triangle, and we like to call the longest side C. Well, why am I doing that? Because I want to use the theorem, the Pythagorean theorem, to figure out what C is, okay? I'm going to call the little b and letter A. The legs can be called A or B. The order doesn't really matter, okay? So do we know what A is? Absolutely, by counting the units. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. A is 7 units. Okay? If I subtracted 2 from 9, I would have got the same answer. B is 1, 2, 3. 3 units. Okay, so B is 3, and A is 7. Let me show you. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 7 units for A, and this is 3 units. Alright, so to find C, we're going to use the formula C squared equals A squared plus B squared. We know C squared equals A squared is 7 squared plus 3 squared. And C squared equals 49 plus 9. If I add this two, I'm going to have C squared equals 58. Take the square root, take the square root. I'm going to have C equals root 58. And my final answer is option B. Okay? Alright, let's move on to question 10. It says, what are the solutions to this equation right here? So we have 9x squared plus 30x equals negative 25. So I'm going to put this in standard form. You know the standard form for quadratic equations is ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. The powers are in descending order, 2, 1, 0, and you have 0 on the right side. So this 25 needs to go to the left. So I add 25 to both sides, add 25, add 25. And that gives me 9x squared plus 30x plus 25 equals 0. Now this looks like a perfect square trinomial. Is it or no? If I take the square root of the first and the last and double it, do I get the center? Let's check that on the side and see. If I double the square root of 9x squared and 25, do I get 30? Is this equal to 30x? Is it? If it is, then I can use a factoring trick. So let's see if this is true. So you're going to have 2 times 3x times 5. Is it equal to 30x? If you multiply this 2 times 3 is 6. 6 times 5 is 30. Is 30x equal to 30x? Absolutely. So this quadratic right here is a perfect square trinomial. Alright? So what does that mean? It means we don't have to use the x game. If you have energy, you can use the x game, but let me show you a trick. All you do is you take the square root of the first and the last, bring down the middle sign, and your fracted form will be 9x squared plus, it's going to be 3x plus 5 quantity squared equals 0. Okay? Alright, so how do we get x by itself? We need to get rid of the square, the 5, and then the 3 in that order. Okay? So let's get rid of the square first. You root both sides. Take the square root, take the square root. You have 3x plus 5 equals square root of 0, 0. Subtract 5 from both sides. We have 3x equals negative 5. Divide both sides by 3. And then you have x equals negative 5 over 3. So the answer to question 10 is uh, D. Okay, negative 5 over 3. All right, moving right along. Question 11. It says, rather than follow the sidewalk, a student on her way to school crossed across a vacant lot. So this is the vacant lot right here. Okay. All lengths are in feet. So which of the statements characterizes the difference between the two paths? So the first path, the longer path, let's call it a sidewalk path. A sidewalk path is basically 40 plus 16, 40 plus 14, right? Because she has to go this length, which is 14, and then that length, which is 40, okay? So 40 plus 14, which is 54. So this is a sidewalk path we're talking about right here. This is a sidewalk. All right, now how about this part right here is the shortcut, okay? Or the vacant lot path. So let's call this vacant lot. So how long is the vacant lot path? Well, we can use the Pythagorean theorem here again. We can call this A and call that B. The vacant lot path is C. We know that C squared equals A squared plus B squared. So this will help us find out the vacant lot path, okay? So C squared equals 40 squared plus 14 squared. When we do the arithmetic, we have C squared equals 1600 plus 196. Okay? And then when we add it, we have C squared equals 1796. Alright, so what we're going to do now is plug that into a calculator and see what we get. Alright, so actually we have to root it first. So let's root the left side and root the right side. So in our calculator, we're going to plug in the square root of 1796. And it's approximately 42.4. Okay? So the vacant lot, the sidewalk path is 54 feet. And the vacant lot path, that one is 42.4 feet. Okay? Alright, we're going to compare both of them right now, and then we'll see which one is the correct answer. So these are the two paths we're comparing, the 54 and the 42. So it says the path across the vacant lot is longer. That's a lie because the path along the vacant lot is shorter. So this is wrong. The path across the vacant lot is shorter than the sidewalk path. That's good. That's the answer. This other one says the sidewalk path is 26 feet shorter in length than a vacant lot. That's absolutely wrong because this is actually much longer. Okay, it's longer by about 12 feet. Okay, and so the sidewalk path is shorter than the path across the vacant lot. That's wrong also because it's the reverse. That's the case. All right, so our answer is B. All right, let's move along to question 12. We're supposed to divide these two rational expressions, x squared plus 9x plus 20 over x squared minus 25 is divided by x plus 4 over x minus 4. All right, when we're dividing, we have to drop, change, flip, or multiply the left side by the reciprocal of the right. So let's do that. We drop this side, x squared plus 9x plus 20 over x squared minus 25. Change the division to times, and then we flip the right side into x minus 4 over x plus 4. Okay? All right, now let's factor the top. The left numerator. All right, the left numerator is x squared plus 9x plus 20. So we're going to use the x gain here to factor this. So we'll make an x. AC is 20 and B is 9. So what works here is 5 and 4. So we're going to have x squared plus 5x plus 4x plus 20. We're going to break it down at center and factor by grouping, okay? So we have x times x plus 5 times x on the left plus 2 times x plus, break down 20, you have 2 times 2 times 5. Okay? On the left side, factor out an x. You have x times x plus 5. And on the right side, you can take out two 2's. And then that's plus 4x plus 5. And this factors into x plus 5 times x plus 4. Okay? Alright, let's do on the upper left. Left numerator is x plus 5 times x plus 4 over. Now we're going to factor the left denominator. Okay? So let's do that on the right side here, left denominator. That is x squared minus 25. This is a difference of squares. So to factor this, you root the first and the last. And then you basically add and subtract the square roots, okay? So we're going to have x plus 5 times x minus 5. All right, so that goes down here. X plus 5 times x minus 5 multiplied by x minus 4 over x plus 4. Okay, now let's reduce. X plus 5 and x plus 5 divided across, top down. And then dividing across, x plus 4 goes here 1, x plus 4 goes here 1. The final answer is x minus 4 over x minus 5. And the answer is option letter B. Okay? Alright, now let's move on to the next problem. Question 13, it says find the equation of the graph below. So we need to be really careful here because when you're looking for the center, you have to take the opposite, okay? So let's take a look at this. This one you're going side to side 1, side to side 1, and that's going to be along the x, and then up and down you're going 4, okay? I'm sorry, you're going 2. So you're going 2. Alright, so that means that under your x, the x is going to be divided by 1 square, which is 1, and the y is going to be divided by 2 square, which is 4. Okay, so let's see which one matches. This has a 1 under the x square, which is good, and this has a 4 under the y, which is good. This, but if you notice, since the parabola goes side to side, that means x has to come first, okay? So this one y comes first, that's wrong, and this one y comes first, that's wrong. So it's either option A or B, okay? So there's a 1 under the x, that's good. There's a 1 under the x, that's good. And then the 4 is under the y, that's good, and 4 under the y, that's good. So the only difference between these two is the center, all right? So the center here is going to be 1 and 1, 2, 3. 1, comma 3. So this is where you have to be really careful. When you're plugging it into the equation, you have to take the opposite. So the opposite in the equation is actually going to be x minus 1. You do the opposite square over the 1 minus y instead of 3 is going to be minus 3. Okay? Minus 3 squared. So always do the opposite of the origin or the center before you put it into the equation equals 1. So the answer is 8. This is a trap right here. It's not 1, 3. Okay? This is wrong. You have to do the opposite first. All right, let's move on to 14. It says, what are the solutions to the equation 4t squared minus 4t plus 3 equals 0? So this one we're going to use a quadratic formula. The quadratic formula is x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4c over 2a. Okay, so in this case, a is 4, b is negative 4, and c is 3. All right, let's plug all those in. So we're going to have x equals negative 4 plus or minus the square root of b squared, which is negative 4 squared, minus 4ac, which is 4 times 4 times 3. That whole thing divided by 2a, which is 2 times 4. Okay? Alright, now let's simplify this. So this is going to give us 4 plus or minus the square root of 4 squared is 16. 4 times 4 is 16 times 3 is 48, minus 48 over 8. Okay. Okay, now let's simplify further. We're going to have 4 plus or minus, if you subtract this, you get 32. Square root of 32. Actually, negative 32 over 8. Okay, let's reduce negative 32. Square root of negative 32. So since there's a minus, that minus comes out as an I. Remember, I is root negative 1. Can I take out a 2 from 32 since it's even? 2 goes into 32, 16. 2 goes into 16, 8. 2 goes into 8, 4. And then 2, 2. So 32 is basically 2 to the 5th power. But let's break this down though. Since these two 2's repeat, they come out as a 2. These two 2's repeat. They also come out as a 2. So the simplified form is going to be 4 plus 2 times 2, I root 2. Okay? So we're going to plug it in here. It's going to become 4 plus or minus 4I root 2 over 8. Now to simplify this, I'll just simply divide everything by 4, since that was the LCD of 4, 4, and 8. I'm sorry, the GCF of 4, 4, and 8 is 4. So divide the top by 4 and the bottom by 4. So the final answer is going to be 1 plus or minus I root 2. I can do this over 2 because I divided 8 by 4, which is 2, and I just split it apart. All right? So the answer to question number 14 is option letter D. Okay? All right, moving right along. Question 16 says solve for x. So this is a right angle trig problem since we have an angle on two sides. So this is the angle right here. So this side opposite the angle is opposite. And this is opposite the 90 degrees side. So this is your hypotenuse, okay? The adjacent doesn't count. We don't need it. We don't know it. So forget about it. O and H in SOHCAHTOA is clearly sine. Okay, so sine x is opposite over hypotenuse. Okay, so how do you get sine x by itself? You take the inverse sine of both sides, the inverse sine of sine x, and then you do the inverse sine of the right side also. Inverse sine of 7 over 14. Okay, the sine and the inverse cancel out on the left side, then you have x equals the inverse sine of 7 over 14. So all you do is just plug that in your calculator, and that will give you your answer. All right. So let's go ahead and plug that into our calculator and see what we get. So let's see. All right. So when you plug it in the calculator, you get 30 degrees. Okay. So x is 30 degrees. The answer to number 16 is C. All right, let's move on to the next one. Number 17, this is a composition problem. We asked to find f of g of x. So what on earth does f of g of x mean? Well, this basically means that you're inputting function g into f. Okay, so anywhere you have x in f, you're going to plug in the value of g into that, all right? So this is the parent function, and that's the input function, and this is going to be inputted into that. So let's write down the parent function first. F of x equals x squared minus 1. We're going to get a perhaps to receive the input function by replacing the x's with parentheses. Okay, so we have f parentheses equals parentheses square minus 1. Okay, so the input function is g of x. That's about the name, and the value is negative 3x squared. So you put negative 3x squared here. So let's simplify this. To simplify this, what we'll do is we're going to use the product of powers. The power of the product of powers property here, which basically means that the power has to be distributed to all the terms in the parentheses. So this square goes to the minus, this square goes to the 3, and this square goes to the 2. Okay? So basically, what's 2 square is positive, so you're going to have 3 squared as 9, and x squared is x to the 4th. Alright, so this square makes this a plus because minus times a minus is a plus. Okay? Minus 1, so that's going to be f of g of x. Alright, so there you have it. Alright. Alright, so your answer is option A. Okay, let's move on to question 18. It says find the center radius of this conic in general form. So we have the conic in general form x squared plus y squared minus 10x minus 4y plus 13 equals 0. So what we're going to do here is we're going to convert this into the standard form, okay? So what we do is we put the x's and the y's together and move the constant to the other side, all right? So we have x squared. I need this next to it, so x squared minus 4, I'm sorry. What I need next to it is actually uh, negative 10x. Okay, so these are the x's, x squared minus 10x. And then for the y's, y squared and negative 4y. So let's put the y's together. Plus y squared minus 4y. This is neither an x nor a y, so I need to move it to the other side by subtracting 13 from both sides. Okay. All right, so when I do that, this is what I get, negative 13 on the right side. So I'm going to partition my variables into two worlds, the x and y world, and then I'm going to complete the square, okay? So to complete the square, all you do is you add b over 2 squared. That's how you complete the square, all right? So for the x world, b is negative 10, okay, because that's the coefficient of x. This is a and that's b. So what I'll do is I'll divide it by 2, which is negative 5, and then I'll square it. When I square it, I get 25. So 25, by adding 25 on the x world, I complete the square. On the y world, I have negative 4. That's the b. Divided by 2, I get negative 2. When I square it, I get 4. That completes the square in the y world, okay? So let's add them on, and I'm going to have x squared minus 10x plus 25. And then plus y squared minus 4y plus 4. And then on the right side, I'm going to have negative 13 plus 25 plus 4. Okay? All right, so on the left side, to complete this, to factor this is a perfect square trinomial. So I'm going to read the first and the last, bring down the middle sign. Same procedure here, you read the first and the last, and bring down the middle sign. So the factored form of the x perfect square trinomial is x minus 5 quantity squared plus, here we have y minus 2 quantity squared, negative 13 plus 25 plus 4 is 16. So we have this in standard form, x minus 5 squared plus y minus 2 squared equals 16. So this formulation, the standard form, I can tell that my center is, do the opposite of the x, 5, and the opposite of the y, 2. And the radius, be careful here. Okay, you have to take the square root of that last number, square root of 16, which is 4. All right, so the answer is D. All right, moving right along. Question 22. It says, Leola drives 18 kilometers up a hill that is at an angle of 15 degrees of elevation. What is the horizontal distance to the nearest tenth of a kilometer? So let's make a sketch of the situation. So she drives up a hill, okay? And the angle of elevation from the horizontal is basically 15 degrees. So let's indicate that in our diagram. So there goes the hill she drove up, and the angle of elevation is going up from the horizontal. It's 15 degrees, and this is the length she traveled, right? The car traveled this length, so this is 19. Okay, 19 kilometers. So the question is, what is the horizontal distance? This is x. So that's what we're looking for. All right, this is a right triangle trigonometry problem. So we're either going to be using SOHCAHTOA or TOA. So by labeling what we know and what we need, we can determine the right ratio. Okay, so this is the angle, so this side is the opposite. This side opposite the 90 degree right here is the hypotenuse. And this side right here is the adjacent. Okay, if you look at this situation, I do not need or know my opposite. So I don't need it, I don't know it, so let's scrap it. We just need h and a. So look at SOHCAHTOA, which has a and h in it. Cosine does. So we're going to be using cosine. Cosine 15 equals the adjacent, which is x, over the hypotenuse, which is 19. Okay? So multiply both sides by 19. And then you're going to have x equals 19 cosine 15. Alright, so we're going to plug that into our calculators. and that will tell us what the result is, okay? So the answer, if you plug in the calculator, you get 18.4. It's approximately 18.4 kilometers, all right? So the answer is option B. All right. Okay, now moving along, it says, which of the following cannot be the length of a 30, 60, 90 triangle? 30, 60, 90 triangle, we can orient the lengths of the standard 30, 60, 90 triangle as 1 for the shortest side, 2 for the longest side, and root 3 for the side that's in between. Okay? So, which of the following is not in this ratio, 1 to 2 to root 3? So let's start with option A. Option A, we have 27, comma 54, comma 27 root 3. Is this expression a multiple of that? If it is, then it's good. If it's not, then it's wrong. Okay, so how do we know? I need to scale this down by compressing this down to 1. So what do I divide this by to make it match that? I need to divide it by 27. Since I'm compressing this first length by 27, I need to apply the same compression factor to all the other sides. So divide it by 27, divide it by 27, and divide that by 27. Okay? So what do I have? That's going to give me 27 over 27 is 1, comma, 27 over 54. 54 over 27 is 2. 27 over 27 divided out by 3. This works perfectly. So this is a good ratio. Now the next one, B, is this a multiple or is this a scale or is it similar to uh, this this standard 30, 60, 90 triangle? Is this in the same proportion to that? That's the question. So to do this, we get to scale this down by 16 because if I divide the first side by 16, I get 1. Then divide by 16 by 16 and by 16. So that's going to give me 16 over 16 is 1, 32 over 16 is 2, 16 over 16 is root 3. That works perfectly also. Now let's move on to option C. We have 13 over 5, um, 26 over 5, and 13 over 5, root 3. Okay, so to get this one into 1 is kind of complicated. We need to divide by 13 over 5 to make this 1, or multiply by reciprocal. Okay, so instead of dividing by 13 over 5, I'm going to multiply by 5 over 13, multiply this by 5 over 13, and then multiply this by 5 over 13 also. Multiply by the reciprocal is the same thing as dividing, okay, by the fraction. So let's look at what happens here. So this one divides out completely to 1, which is good. This 5 goes here 1, 5 goes here 1, 13 goes here 1, 13 goes here twice, 2, which is good. 13 goes here 1, 13 goes here 1, 5 goes here 1, 5 goes here 1, root 3. So 1 to root 3, that matches with this ratio, so C is good also. So it has to be D. Let's verify. So we have 11, 22, and 22 root 3. So we're going to scale it down by 11. Divide this by 11, divide this by 11, and divide that by 11. So we're going to have, divide this out, we get 1, divide this out, you get 2, divide this out, you get 2 root 3. Uh-oh, we have a problem. There's a 2 here, and there's no 2 here. So that means this is wrong. Okay, so the answer is option D. All right. Okay, let's take a look at 24. We want to find the value of cosine x. Okay, so let's label it first. So this is the angle. So this right here is the opposite. This is the hypotenuse because it's opposite the 90-degree angle. And this right here is the adjacent. Okay. All right, so cosine is ka in SOHCAHTOA. So what does that mean? It means that cosine of the angle is adjacent over hypotenuse, right? All right, so cosine x in this case, which is what we're asked to find, is equal to the adjacent, which is 4, over the hypotenuse, which is 5. So 4 over 5 is your cosine, and the answer is B. All right, moving along, here we have to solve for x. This looks very similar to a 45, 45, 90 triangle. So why don't we sketch that real quick and see what we can get from there. So there goes my 45, 45, 90 triangle. Let me orient it like the problem. So this is a 45, 45, 90 triangle. That means this side is going to be 1, 1, and that will be root 2. Okay, and this is my 90 degrees. So let's solve that. So this is 45, and that's 45. Opposite the 45, we have 1. In opposite is 45, we have 1. In opposite to 90, we have root 2. So this is what I'm looking for here. I'll put this over 1 because this is 45. This one is also 45. So I'll put this over 1. So I can use these two to solve it, right? Since this has an unknown and this is known. So I can set these two equal to each other. So I'm going to go 7 over 1 equals x over 1. Okay, so if I divide it out, I'll end up with 7 equals x. So the answer is x equals 7. So the answer is option C. Okay? All right. Now let's move on to question 28. Say true or false, the height of the school is about 32 feet. So we're looking for this height right here. Is it 32 feet? Well, let's find out. This is the angle. So that makes this side the opposite. This is going to be my opposite. O for opposite in SOHCAHTOA. This is a 90-degree side right here. So this makes this my hypotenuse. H in SOHCAHTOA. And this is my adjacent. Okay. In this problem, I don't know the hypotenuse and I don't need it. So let's scratch it. I need this side and I know this side. Okay. So we need O and A. O and A. So in SOHCAHTOA, which one is O and A? Which one has O and A in it? Tan does, right? So we're going to be using tan in this problem. So in this problem, we're going to be setting up the ratio tan of the angle 40 equals opposite over adjacent. Okay? All right, to get h by itself, we multiply both sides by what? We multiply both sides by 38. And then we have h equals 38 tan 40. So what is 38 tan 40? 38 tan 40 is 31.8, which is about 32. Is approximately about 32 feet. Okay, so what the original question asked, it says, is the height about 32 feet? It absolutely is. So the answer is true. All right, so there you have it. So thanks so much for taking the time to watch this video. Feel free to subscribe by clicking up here. More videos can be found on mathreserve.com. Thanks again and have a wonderful day.